With the effects of quarantining under COVID, we had seen how quickly the environment could bounce back. When it comes to healing the planet, would we have to undergo those same restrictions at the cost of increased mental health problems stemming from this isolation again? This also comes from the effects under solitary confinement with the American prison system. We've seen how negative it can be with this isolation. It has affected us as a general population, and it affects others as well the same way.
First of all, yes, it's true that to some extent we saw the environment bounce back at the time of the COVID restrictions. But when you look at the data, the bouncing back was actually quite insignificant, right? Yes, since we didn't have traffic, so the level of NO2 and SO2 in the air that went down. But at the same time, the level of consumption within the household didn't really drastically go down. Yes, people were not traveling by air, so to that extent, gases were not being released up in the sky. But still, the reduction was quite minimal. But you're right, it still gives hope. If we could see even a slight reduction in a matter of a few months, in fact, the reduction was visible within a few weeks actually, then a lot can happen if our very lifestyles can be made to change. A lot can happen within 1 or 2 years. And that's also the kind of scale we are talking of when it comes to the urgency of climate action. We are saying we have 5 years or 10 years at the most, right? So you need drastic changes in the lifestyle of the common man.
Would drastic changes come with drastic approaches?
That won't last too long. You see, if you have drastic approaches, you think of, again, the COVID restrictions.
Yes.
In so many, in so many.
From the individuals as well.
Exactly.
And we'd have people who would want to fight.
Exactly. In so many countries, the societies were on the brink of rioting. They said that we are prepared to die, but we are not prepared to follow the restrictions that the medical society and the governments are imposing on us. So unless it is something that the people agree to, at least partially, by themselves, drastic approaches will result in a blowback.
Yes.
There would be... Yes.
It comes with collective agreements. If we could get everyone to agree, then we have better luck with trying to get this progress that we're seeking.
Yep.
Even if we can't get everyone to agree, we need to have at least a sizable minority that wholeheartedly agrees. I sometimes say that probably even 10% constituency would suffice to begin with. But this 10% has to be a very genuine community, and it would very soon snowball. Within a matter of a few months, a few years, you will find that it is gaining a lot of influence. But that influence, or rather the gain in influence, would be proportional to the sincerity of this community.
Do you think that could happen with factors like social engineering? With tying back to the algorithms once more, if we were to introduce something within those algorithms to allow those people to see it more and to get it to where they would eventually start to follow along with that. this tactic has gone with like conspiracy theories to where they see it so much to the point where they start to believe it too, which form of social engineering.
No, I not only agree with what I said a few minutes back, I genuinely mean it. I'm actually living it. We are every day creating more and more individuals who are living very different kinds of lives. Right? If you ask them whether they have modified their lives so that their lives are carbon neutral, or so that they remain ecologically sensitive human beings, they will say no. The climate or the ecology is never something at the top of our mind. Living rightly is what matters to us. And because we live rightly, so our carbon footprint is very small. The size of our carbon footprint is just an indirect consequence of the lives we are leading. So what I'm talking of is not merely a thought or an idea. It is something that we are executing every day since so many years now. And the number of those who have brought this and who honestly see the truth in this is very large. A few thousands would be a conservative estimate. If I want to be optimistic, I could say a few lakhs. So when I said that we just need around 10% of the society to start with, it is not all that impossible. Had it been so impossible, it would have been foolish to attempt it. But we are not only attempting it, I'm saying we are materializing it every passing day. It is possible and we are doing it.
What would you suggest on how we could encourage that 10%? We are attempting it every day, and you've said that it could be possible despite being considered foolish. How could we encourage them to, that small 10%, to pursue it?
No, the lives that the people are leading, the life that the common man is leading, nobody is satisfied with us, and that is where your opportunity is. You see, don't talk climate to the common man. I have talked so much climate, and I know very well they don't listen. Yes, they would, yes, for the sake of nominal virtue signaling, they won't run away, or they won't candidly admit in your face that they are not at all interested in this topic. So they will listen to you, somehow they'll tolerate to you, listening to you, but genuinely they won't act much on the advice or take the discourse home. That's not going to happen. But if you talk to them about their lives, they listen, because that's where their primary interest is. Right? And
also finding a way to relate to the individual that you're talking to.
Yes, obviously. Yes. And nobody is happy living the way he is living. We all need an inner revolution. That inner revolution is the solution to the climate crisis. Give them that inner change. Give them a different way to live. See, nobody wants that old kind of job where you don't even know who is the one profiting out of your work. Nobody wants to get into the same kind of social institutions and, get married and have kids. And you do all those things because you don't see an alternative. Nobody wants to remain confined to a physical place called home and spend 3/4 of his life there. That's against who we really are, right? So there is a lot of incentive to change. We are leading, if I may say, pretty rotten lives, and that rottenness is emitting a lot of carbon. When things rot, when organic stuff rots, what you get is carbon. So we are all organic and we are rotting. And there is a lot of carbon dioxide. People don't want to rot. Especially young people. They want to live rather than rot. Help them live. Help people live. And you will avert the climate catastrophe. Give right kinds of lives to people, and you'll find their interest in false consumerism or insane procreation or meaningless kind of entertainment. All this will greatly drop. We are not born to emit carbon. We are born to gain liberation. If we find that the common man is a carbon producer rather than a seeker for liberation, it simply means that the right ideas have not been given to us. Rather, the wrong ideas have seized our mind. Give people the right ideas, which are an antidote to the wrong ideas. So the right knowledge, and give them a glimpse of an alternate kind of life. Show them that the opportunity is real. And you will find they'll take it. You need to be hopeful about this. Show the opportunity and people will take it. If we continue to live the way we do, if our desires, hopes, relationships, emotions, houses, families, jobs, careers, aspirations, this is what constitutes a common person's life, right? If this remains the way it is, carbon remains the way it is and only gets worse.
I believe that should be all from me for now. But I did appreciate this.
Thank you.
It's a little bit on the different side of the spectrum of human common sense and the emptiness that causes a large carbon footprint and need for consumption. Do you personally think that religion or lack thereof has any impact on what a person feels like is the right level of consumption, or what is right and wrong regarding their carbon footprint?
You said religion, or what was the next word you used?
Or lack thereof. So whether they have religion or they don't have religion, do you think that plays a part in how much they consume or how large their carbon footprint is?
See, obviously, first of all, what is religion? Religion is the way to bring this restless mind to peace. We are born restless, and there is no moment when we feel safe, secure, and sane within. Right? So, religion, in its purest sense, in its true sense, is the intention and the way to bring the mind to some sanity, some peace, some rest. That's what religion is. But then we see so many distorted versions of religion going around. I'm not talking of all that. I'm talking of pure religion. I'm talking of core spirituality. So, true religion obviously involves knowing what the mind is, what plagues it, and therefore what can heal it. If you can know what really your sickness is about, then you will stop giving yourself false treatments. The climate crisis that we see is a result of the false treatments we apply to the mind. So, if we can be truly religious, then the climate crisis and so many other problems facing us would be very naturally taken care of. Right? So am I saying the people who are not religious, they will keep contributing to the crisis, that they will never be a part of the solution? Well, no. If religion is about being truly observant of the mind and being determined to bring it to its true destination, a true rest, then it does not matter whether one calls himself religious or not. One could very well declare himself an atheist or agnostic, but if he still has honesty within, to self-respect, to observe what is going on, then the fellow is religious in the true sense. The society may call him irreligious. The fellow himself may call himself as a hater of religion, but he would still be deeply religious. So religion is not an ideology, it is not a tag you wear. Religion is a certain inner quality. Religion is to be honest to yourself. You want to know what your inner climate is like. And you are not afraid of seeing that the inner climate is not good. And when you see that, then you don't run away, you don't start lying to yourself. With courage and determination, you say, yes, the inner climate is not right, but I'll set it right. That's what life is for, to set a few things right. That's religiosity. That's religiosity. You could actually say that the climate crisis is a crisis of loss or dilution of true religiosity. And hence, if the climate were to be saved, we might find that the redemption or rescue of climate is parallel to and concurrent with a revival of true religiosity, because these two will go hand in hand. The betterment of the inner climate through understanding and a betterment of the outer climate through renunciation. Observation of the inner climate leads to dispassion and detachment towards the stuff that is causing the inner sickness. And this observation of the inner climate will become a renunciation leading to betterment of outer climate. These two will always go hand in hand. So I'm glad you brought this up and helped me come to this, that what we are having is a crisis in religion. And that crisis in religion is unfolding externally in so many disastrous ways.
That was great. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Acharya ji. I'm an environmental lawyer and working with an NGO, and have been listening to you since past 3 years. So the question I have is that I believe lawyers and activists in the domain of environment win worthless battles or such battles which will seldom benefit in achieving the climate goals. So I'm often seeing that the cataclysmic projects getting environmental clearances or the amendments to the acts which delays the impact assessment reports that any industry before setting up should furnish, or a utilitarian anthropocentric approach disguised as sustainable development, and several other deficiencies. So you have always been telling, and even today, that conferences, policies, and discussions will not yield much results unless man's mind comes to rest and bows down before the scriptures. And I completely agree with this. However, unless I think the spiritual message is spread to the multitude, unless Ashtavakra is in the minds of the masses, I think it is very important that the legal and compliance standards should be robust. And looking at the obstacles which we lawyers and scientists face nowadays, I think I'm not able to perform my duties, or in Hindi, as the saints call it, the Nishkam Karma. So kindly elucidate on this.
No, you are very right. It may take time to bring Ashtavakra to every single household. To begin with, bring Ashtavakra at least to those who are in charge of policy making. No? Finally, obviously, every single sentient being must be awakened. But because we know that we do not have much time when it comes to climate action, so at least bring Ashtavakra to the policy makers, the legislators, and other people. Otherwise, tell me, how do you propose to induce a change in them? Mostly we are talking of democracies, and in democracies, leaders represent the masses. Sometimes the leaders represent the worst face of the masses. Right? The leaders are the masses themselves. If the leaders, the legislators are not exposed to Ashtavakra or Vedant, how will you get the right kinds of policies and bills and laws?
But since the majority of people are following this utilitarian approach and are not uh, bowing before, as I said, the scriptures, and are not able to commit themselves to them. So how can this wave start?
See, the scriptures are not an idea. The scriptures are not an opinion that someone may agree or disagree with. If you look into this statement that people are not interested in the scriptures, or people are not bowing down to the scriptures, what does it mean? What do we mean by the scriptures? The scriptures are like mirrors. They show you who you are. They represent to you the reality of your life. I do not know the meaning when we say that people are not liking the scriptures. The scriptures don't say a thing. There is nothing in the scriptures you can agree to or disagree with. There is just nothing in the scriptures. So then what is happening? What is happening is that the scriptures are not really being brought to the people. The scriptures are being brought in the form of ideas and concepts and opinions and stories and beliefs. Now, that is something the masses can quarrel with and disagree with and also reject. You can quarrel with an opinion or concept or ideology, can you not? You can very well reject a system of thought. Now, if you turn the Gita or Vedanta into a system of thought or solid beliefs, then people get the right to disagree and reject. Not only that, even those who agree are now agreeing to a system of belief and thought. Therefore, their agreement is now superfluous. Do you see this? So it's not the scriptures that are failing. The scriptures have to be rediscovered in every era. The scriptures have to be brought afresh to the masses in every era. In every century, with every passing generation, the scriptures require a new face. That face is missing. What the scriptures say always has to be given a contemporary life. That is what is not being given. You bring the Bhagavad Gita to people and they read it and they as if it has not touched them. They go through the verses without the verses cracking anything within them. And that is not possible. If one really understands the Gita will shatter him. You cannot go through the Gita unscathed. If you really understand the Gita will remain and you will be demolished. But that kind of thing doesn't happen. That doesn't happen because the Gita needs to be retold in this age. What do I mean by retelling? We need today's context, we need today's language, we need contemporary examples. We need the eternal truth to be brought to this time. We need somebody who knows how to make bridges. The truth is eternal. Not only eternal, beyond eternal, timeless. But you are living in your particular time. Climate crisis is a phenomena of your time. Now, nowhere are the words climate and crisis mentioned in the Gita, right? Are they? So that's what. Today you have to have a mind that reads the Gita and sees the solution for climate change. That bridge, that mind is missing. Are you getting what I'm saying? I could dare to say that the Gita contains the very right, the very central and a sure shot solution to the climate crisis. I could even say that the Gita contains the only possible solution to climate crisis. And having said that, if I distribute copies of the Gita among 100 people, they will not find any of the solution I am talking of. They'll say, where is that solution? What nonsense. What we have here is arcane and obscure stuff, irrelevant to this century. So you need that mind that can read climate crisis in the Sanskrit verses of the Gita. And then the scriptures come to life. That's what you need. If that mind, if that bridge is not there, then the scriptures remain where they are, pure as they always were, but not very useful.
I'm Alec. I'm from the Philippines. A little background about me. I am an educator, also a graduate student. Yeah, I'll go straight forward to my question. Since you have mentioned that we have to kind of change, what our outlooks or our beliefs or ideals are. For instance, con- uh, we are so or people in general are too in line with consumerism and all that. But I wanted to point out a certain systemic problem or a certain system that instigate it rather than look into an individual level. That's why I'm going to ask, do you believe that we should totally scrap off capitalism in all its tools? For instance, the market, the concept of buying, the concept of selling, the concept of production. Since you have also mentioned that all of these philosophies that we have been following so far since the rise of man is erroneous. I believe you have mentioned that earlier. But the question is, do you think that we should totally eliminate capitalism in the face of the earth?
You see, what is capitalism? Capitalism is you have the rights to see what people in general are demanding in terms of material goods and services, and you can produce those goods and services, and you can also advertise your stuff, right? And if there are people who want to buy what you are producing, there would be a market. And since there are several of you probably producing the same good, so there would be competition. And all kinds of private persons have the right to produce, and that is capitalism, right? Every single person has the right to make a profit. That is capitalism. Now, what is at the root of capitalism? I know that you are desirous of something material. Having known that you desire something material, I produce what you desire. And knowing that you are desirous of this stuff, I create conditions in which you desire more and more of what I produce. That is capitalism, right? So capitalism is basically an extension of our superficial lives. I'm looking at you and I'm not bothered about the kind of person you are, whether you suffer within, what you really love and what would really bring peace to you. I'm not bothered with all of that. I'm bothered only with the fact that you probably want to buy a new shirt. And you want to buy a new shirt, I'll produce that new shirt and sell it to you at a profit. Right? This is capitalism at the psychological level. Superficial relationship between man and man, a relationship that is founded basically on profit. My relationship with you is that I want to sell you something so that I may make some profit. This is capitalism. But what alternative do you have? You can give all the means and rights of production to a centralized government. How do things change? The man is still the same. What may actually happen is that the government is not very sensitive to your desire and you want a shirt and the government may give you sandals. I don't know whether that makes your spiritual condition any better. One very adverse fallout of the capitalist system is that you don't only produce, you have to. It is incumbent on you to encourage consumerism as well. So you simply cannot have capitalism in isolation. You will always have capitalist consumerism or consumer capitalism. So that is there. But even that is fundamentally a problem of our animalistic tendencies. You bring about any other economic system, and unless the human being has changed from within, you will find it suffers from the same kind of human follies. So, have we not tried enough of socialist systems? We have mixed economies, we have socialist economies, and we had hardcore communist systems as well. Did they really deliver even social goods, let alone spiritual advancement? So, I don't think it's about the economic system you are living in, or the economic philosophy you follow. It's about your spiritual quotient. Do you understand what does it mean to be a human being? How is a human being really different from an animal, let's say? We have addressed this question. In India, Vedanta took only this question as significant, and this question was addressed 500, 800 years before the Christ. In the West, in the last 200, 300 years, you have had Viktor Frankl, you have had Kierkegaard, there's Nietzsche, and somebody has talked of the will to life, the will to meaning, the will to purpose, so the will to power, and the entire thing is about knowing what we really want. So Frankl would say we want meaning. Nietzsche would say we want power. Right? What is it that you really want beyond your animal nature? That needs to be known. And once that is known, then you will get a suitable economic system as well. Then you may as well have capitalism, and even capitalism will be good. It is not capitalism that fails. It is the capitalist that fails, because the capitalist is the person. No? Similarly, socialism won't fail. It is the socialist who would fail, because the person is everything. Has the person been set right? Has the person been treated? So, I hope I'm making some sense. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, that makes a lot of sense. And I actually agree with that point that it's not about really the capitalism. I just wanted to brush off that idea of totally that when we say when we antagonize consumerism, it is highly related to capitalism. It is because it is highly related to capitalism. But again, no, it's, as I understand, it is more on an individual battle, more on an individual one rather than an institutional one. So as I hope I get that right. So as a follow-up question, how can you suggest that, or how can you say that we can achieve a collective mind on that certain idea of each and every one of us will be knowing our own meanings, right? So arriving on that moment, how can we achieve that on a greater scale in the society if most of our systems and institutions are somewhat contradicts that idea? But there are chances that the government might not value individual search for meaning. They might value something that is beneficial for them or for the system or for them to stay in power. So how can we achieve that given that we have these contradictions in different aspects in the society?
You see, it's a strange thing, but it is possible, and it does happen, that sometimes the intensity of love is directly proportional to the resistance that your love is facing. No? The more you find societies and governments averse to the truth you have, the more you start valuing and loving the truth you have. It does happen. So it is not as if governmental apathy or social resistance will necessarily weaken your truth. The very opposite is also possible. That you know that the government is resistant to what you really have, and therefore you become all the more committed to what you really have. The example that I give is of the colonial period in India. The first half of the last century. When we sit down to list the towering figures in the last century of Indian history, what we find is that if we have 100 names to list, some 90 of them or 95 of them are from the first half of the century. Now what is happening? You see, India got independence in 1947, and that's the first half of the century. The conditions were just not right for any kind of greatness to prosper. And exactly because the conditions were adverse, greatness prospered. And when the conditions become favorable, what we found was deterioration in the human spirit. After 1950 till the year 2000, we do not see much individual greatness in India. But we see a decent level of economic progress, and India becomes a bigger military power, and those things happen. Literacy levels rise, and people are given rights, and there is so much that people can do, and people make very little use of those rights. And there was a time in the first half of that century when the British were not giving too many rights to Indians, and in spite of that, we had great literature coming, and we had the Nobel Prize in literature. And not only the Nobel Prize, much of what is valuable in the literary dimension comes from that first half. We had revolutionaries we swear by even today. So how was that happening? All that was happening in the face of adversity. Right? I fully appreciate the importance of the right conditions. But then it is not necessary that favorable conditions are to be called as the right conditions. It's ironical. So, I'm not saying that we should deliberately turn the conditions unfavorable and that people should be oppressed and terrorized, and that will bring out the greatness in them. No. But there is something within that loves a good challenge. The human spirit gets awakened when challenged. Right? So I will not therefore give too much importance to what the governments are saying and what's the general social attitude. I would rather give primacy to the individual. If the individual can be set alight, then great things just happen. Governments, societies, conditions, all these then become things to be overcome easily. I don't know whether I was more factual or poetic, but that's what.
Thank you very much. That makes a lot of sense. I think that's all for me. Thank you very much for having me here, um, Dr. Acharya. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Acharya and Peyton and Alec and all the other students who participated, including those who listened in and didn't ask questions, but stayed with us for this entire conversation. This has been fascinating, deep. I was thinking there's no way to try to summarize this up, but I think, Acharya, you actually in your last answer gave us really the summation of all of this, which is more love, less carbon. If we can achieve that, then the world will be a much better place. So
Thank you so much. Thank you so
thank
much.
you all for joining us. And on behalf of Bard College and our graduate programs in sustainability, we wish you all more love and less carbon emissions.
Thank you, sir. Best wishes.